when you look at Rand Paul was saying, maybe Muslims shouldn't have an open door to get into our country. There's a whole lot of people in that part of the world. There's a whole lot of people that are Muslim. And a very tiny portion of them, a very tiny portion of the population of Muslims in the world are radicals. Something like 25% support radicals, but are not necessarily themselves radicals. And it sounds crazy to say it, to phrase it in that way, to say it that way. But when you take a look at the number of Americans that agree with some of these issues like gun control, when you look at the amount of Americans, or Westerners at all for that matter, who believe we should pass laws to make hate speech illegal, to make it illegal for you to say bad things about Muhammad, for example. When you look at the number of people that support that violation of freedom, it's not really a wonder that some of these Muslims would support the bad guys. It doesn't seem so far-fetched when you think about the number of people in the Western world who support craziness. When you look at the number of people in the UK who celebrated when Margaret Thatcher died, when you look at the number of people in the UK who actively strive to reduce sentences of violent offenders that are Muslim in the name of tolerance. When you see that, and you see it supported by a majority, it should scare the hell out of you. Absolutely, it should terrify you. And it should make it less surprising that 25% of Muslims, of billions of Muslims, support radicals. Also considering that, many of these Muslims are located in the third world and live amongst these crazies. So I imagine those numbers may be a wee bit skewed. But I think it's important to note. It's important to take these things with a grain of salt. I'm just giving you salt, people. Lots and lots of salt to take with the thoughts of others. We wouldn't want a crop of bigots now, would we? No, we don't. But really, a lot of people are also worried after this attack about the media not publishing the cartoons, saying, every media outlet needs to publish these cartoons to show what these guys died for, to show what killed them. Well, I'm mixed on that one. Kind of feel like that choice belongs to each individual media outlet. Absolutely, it's worth noting. Absolutely. But broadcasting it on television, that is another matter. You see, the thing about television is it's considered a public thing. And when you put something on TV, you have to answer to the public. And many people in the public do not believe that you should be allowed to say things that offend others. And to think that you can publish something like that as a news outlet without getting in trouble, I question it. Absolutely question it. Especially for a broadcast network, which is what many people are complaining about. So, when criticizing these networks, try to take it with a grain of salt. Because I guarantee you the Department of Justice would take them for everything they have if they decided to go ahead with publishing something like that. Now, all that being said, I do think that it would have been wise if more of these broadcast networks would have redirected people to their websites, for example, or redirected them to, just encourage them to Google it and see what it is rather than broadcast it. Just encouraging people to go, Google it or go to our website to see, the images that were offending people. So that way, people have to give their affirmative consent that they want to see it by going online. And I think we all believe consent, voluntary action, is a good thing. I mean, technically you choose to watch the news, but you don't choose to put what's on there. But when there's something that is controversial and the news outlet is kind enough to say there's some offensive things here, if you would like to see them, go to our website. And if not, you don't have to. Imagine a world where we don't all crap our pants when nothing happens. So I've seen it both directions. And I think the website push would have been a better idea, but that seems to have not happened either, and I think that's unfortunate. I think the flat-out refusal to publish it is ridiculous, especially considering, and this was on the AP today, there was an AP photo of a painting, an art installation called Piss Christ. Yes, you heard me correctly. And somebody had peed on a painting of Christ and then sealed it up. So there's pee on Jesus. This is not to be confused with the jar of pee, which holds a crucifix by an African artist, which was considered to be brilliant and sold for more money than you would believe. Thanks, New Yorkers. And is actually interpreted by the art world to be as praising Jesus or being in tribute to him, because African art traditionally uses mediums from the body, such as feces and urine, to create artwork. So, they had the picture of Piss Christ up on the AP, and the AP refused to publish the Muhammad cartoons. Well, rather than publish both, the AP said, "Why, you know what, you're correct." And they decided to go ahead and pull both. So rather than taking the freedom of speech option, they took the PC option, which is kind of unfortunate for everyone, but it is what it is, what it is, what it is. But I think it's unfair to bash Ron Paul for saying that foreign policy might have played a role in inspiring these terrorists. I think it's incredibly stupid to make that argument. And it's not to say you're permanently stupid if you make it, but it's just a bad argument to make in general. And I think it's important that you call out bad arguments like that for what they are. So, do as you will, folks. Now, there is something else that I want to touch on a little bit here before we go tonight. Got a couple minutes left. President Obama is going to propose 2 years of free community college for American workers Friday, part of what the White House says is an effort to make community college as universal as high school is today. Obama teased his community college in a video uploaded Thursday, and will deliver a speech Friday in Tennessee. This according to USA Today writer Gregory Corte, whatever. Put simply, the president said, what I'd like to do is see the first 2 years of community college free for anybody who's willing to work for it. And what's interesting is his definition of work for it is take advantage of it, not actually work and pay for it. So there's that. He says it's something we can accomplish, and it's something that will train our workforce so that we can compete with anyone in the world. Let me be clear. With no detail... Oh, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Look, the point is, this is a stupid idea. In a world where we need to repeal the Department of Education, President Obama is trying to expand it. This is dumb. Do you know why community colleges opened in the first place? They make money. They make money. They are for-profit institutions. Now, you can swear up and down and argue that they get lots of money from the state, and I agree, and it's reprehensible. It's stupid. And it's altogether unacceptable, Jedi. But it is the world we live in. And you've got Republicans saying, with no details or information on the cost, this seems more like a talking point than a plan. That's according to Speaker John Boehner's spokesman. So, rather than say, that's a bad idea and you're stupid, John Boehner has said, tell me more. So, on January 20th, the White House is planning on putting out the rest of the plan with all the details on funding and that kind of stuff. Looks like it's a $34.2 billion estimate in terms of 9 million students being able to do it. Saving them up to $3,800 a year. 9 million students. Those estimates are crap because the number of people that go to community college would go way up if this was allowed. Not only that, you would have lots of people trying to get all these technical certificates, and with them becoming more readily available, it would make the marketplace more competitive without actually inserting more competition in terms of being able to afford it, thereby separating the lower class even further from the middle and upper class. Because these people that are not intelligent enough to get the certificate would not be able to market their skills for a lower cost, which is unfortunate. So, this is just one more example of why Boehner was a terrible, terrible choice. At least if Pelosi was there, McConnell on principle probably would have vetoed it, or just not allowed it to go to vote. Or, even better, Pelosi would have loaded it up with crapola, and the Republicans would have just voted it down with their bigger majority in the House. So, lots and lots and lots and lots of wonderful things coming out of D.C. this month. And it's only the 8th. What I think is interesting is that you've also got you've got him talking about his pre-K plans and all that kind of stuff, and education, and trying to discuss increasing the standards of community college as opposed to letting the markets themselves compete. It's just more government trying to get involved in more markets, and it's disgusting. And it's just the latest terrible idea, flavor of the week out of Washington, D.C. And I think it's something we should all vehemently oppose, and we should all be very ready to get out of that situation, to get out and oppose it, and not let it be something we allow to continue. Ladies and gentlemen, that is our first show for 2015. My name is Dustin Hoyt. You're listening to Vigilant Liberty Radio. America Our Way is the name of the show. You can find me at America Our Way on Twitter, Facebook.com/America Our Way. We'll see you next time.